Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Haley and I love to bullet journal, and whether you're new or tuning back in, today is a great video for you to jump in with because today we are going to be setting up my 2026 start of journal spreads. And for the new year, I will be using this beautiful Archer and Olive notebook. It is their standard dot grid notebook, 160 GSM, and I am so excited to be starting and setting up some new spreads today. This is one of my favorite times of year because I love the opportunity to get to start fresh. So we're gonna start by getting rid of that pesky insert page that's always at the front of the journal, and I'm just gonna go ahead and turn it into a pocket. And a little word to the wise here, if you have a cutting mat, which I do, but I chose not to use, if you have one, just go ahead and use it. It would have made this process so much faster and easier, and I wouldn't have been scared about cutting through that start of journal page with the nameplate on it. So highly recommend using that if you have one, and if you don't have one, I definitely think it is a worthwhile investment. And then I'm just going to use some double-sided tape to tape down 3 sides of that pocket so that it will still be functional and open from the top. And I am going to plan to use that cutoff piece to create a ruler later, but we're not going to do that in today's video. And as I mentioned, starting a new journal definitely means starting fresh for me. So one of my goals for this year is to spend a lot more time actually creating art in my bullet journal. And so I would say, actually, I think 100% of these start of journal spreads are going to be all hand drawn and doodled. So I'm not using any external stickers or washi tapes or ephemera. It is all going to be 100% drawn by me, which is kind of vulnerable because this is a space that I'm still working on improving my skill in. And I have to be honest with you, I am most nervous when it comes to coloring in my drawings. I don't really have any technique for coloring, and I don't know the best way to use my markers and blend them. So please give me some grace because I am trying to push myself outside of my comfort zone and draw a lot more in my bullet journal for 2026. And the markers that I'm using here to color in my drawing are all Ohuhu markers. I got a really nice set, pretty cheap, so I will try to link that down in the box below for you so that if you're interested in picking those up, you can. I absolutely love these markers. They have a fine tip and a brush tip end, and I've never had any issues with them bleeding through the pages of my Archer and Olive notebooks, which my Archer and Olive notebooks, they are 160 GSM, as I mentioned, so they're unlikely to have any bleed through or ghosting, but it is nice to just confirm that they don't do that. Now, here's one of those moments where I was kind of questioning what I was doing with that hair extra outline, but you know what? It's there. I rolled with it. Ultimately, I think the end result looks pretty good, so I'm really still trying to find my style when it comes to artwork, and I am still working on digital art. If you happen to watch my personal curriculum for the fall, that is an area that I'm still trying to learn more about and work on my iPad. I'm definitely not a pro at that. I'm very far from being a pro, but that's something that I want to continue to grow this year as well. So I will definitely be trying to use my own doodles with some mixed media, so maybe with some stickers or washi tape or ephemera, and eventually I hope that I will be able to print and cut my own stickers that I create digitally. So I have a long way to go before I get there, but I have some pretty big goals for this year. So this is my cover page pretty much all done, just adding some final outlining. And I will say, if you are going to use these particular markers and you're going to use a Sakura fine liner, I do recommend using the markers first and then using the fine liner. I do find that sometimes the fine liner bleeds if I do the outline and then try to color it in, so that's why I chose to do it in this particular order. And after some minor cleanup, that's going to be everything for my cover spread. So we can go ahead and flip over to my year at a glance page. And this is a page that I personally feel is always a must in my bullet journal setup. I really like to be able to see all of the important dates that I have ahead and everything that's on my calendar. And you might have noticed that this particular spread only has the first 6 months of the year, and that is going to be the case for all of my spreads for my start of journal setup. So last year I planned to use one journal for the first 6 months of the year, and then I didn't end up journaling too much for a couple of months for March and April, and so I was able to use it for a little bit longer than that. But I did still really enjoy doing a mid-year reset in my journal. So while I don't plan to be able to use this journal for longer than 6 months, I know that even if I do use it for longer than 6 months, it will still be nice to do that reset at the middle of the year. And this numbering process can be pretty tedious, so we're gonna do a little bit of movie magic, and now they're all done. But don't worry, you didn't miss too much. I just wrote in the calendar dates for January through June, and I was a little hasty with trying to clean this up, so I did have some smudging, but don't worry, I do have my trusty white gel pen. I will work on cleaning that up a little bit later. And after that little bit of smudging, I did just switch over to one of my Sharpie S-Gel pens. This is my preferred pen to write in the journal, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it doesn't smudge just as much as the fine liners if I don't let it dry. So I don't really think it makes too much of a difference what kind you use for this type of work in your journal, but I do prefer using these when I am adding in headers like this, so that is why I switched over. And the rest of this spread is super simple before we get to the little doodles that I added down at the bottom. So I just created some lines to help to separate between each of the months, and I will eventually mark all of those in with my fine liner. But I wanted to go ahead and get some color into my doodles down at the bottom of the spread so that I could also outline them with my fine liner when I was ready to fill in the rest of those lines on my calendars. And if you were wondering, all of my little person doodles in my start of journal spread are supposed to be little mini self-portraits. So not that they're 100% accurate to how I look, but I wanted them to be somewhat in my likeness since it's my start of journal for my own personal journal. And then the little animal doodles that I have here are meant to represent my dog Zoe. She's a Shiba Inu, and this is normally how I draw her when I'm sketching. And as I mentioned, once those were all colored in, I just wanted to go back in with my fine liner and outline everything so that they really popped off the page. And if you haven't figured it out already, my general style that I wanted to go for with all of these doodles was just to be very like stickers stuck into the journal, or honestly just doodles. I really wanted to reconnect with that because when I was younger, I used to doodle a lot in all of my notebooks, no matter what they were for, and I definitely sometimes would get caught doodling rather than focusing on my work because I was bored in class. So I kind of wanted to return to that vibe with all of these little drawings. And as promised, now that the drawings are done, we're just going to finish all of that lining, and then I am going to do some second line highlighting just to add a little more pop of color to this spread. If you are newer to bullet journaling, I would say that this is one of the easiest techniques that you can employ in your journal just to give it that little extra something. It makes the page so much more visually appealing, and I really feel like it gives it that pop before the pen so that your pages are still really aesthetically pleasing before you've gone in and actually written things in your journal. And that will be it for my year at a glance spread. So we can go ahead and start on my next spread, which is going to be my goals for the year and my vision board. Now, I'm not actually going to fill in my goals for the year yet because I haven't decided what I want to write here, but later in the video, I will go ahead and create my vision board for 2026. And since I'm not going to be writing in my personal goals just yet, I will at least tell you how I typically set up my goals so that you have some inspiration if you have a goal spread that you're wanting to create in your journal. So I typically set up SMART goals, and SMART is an acronym. So it stands for specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time bound. And this is a great tool to use to take your goals from being something vague that might be difficult to achieve to actually breaking them down into manageable, bite-sized chunks that have clear start and end dates and ways that you will measure success from start to finish. And it really helps you to further connect to the reason that those goals are important to you personally. And so I found that that's a great tool if you're wanting to create goals for the new year, to really set goals that you will be able to not only stick to, but ultimately achieve and feel successful about. And overall for this spread, I am just keeping both of these super simple because I know on the left-hand side of my page under my goals, I'm gonna have tons of writing in those boxes, really fleshing out every part of that SMART acronym and defining that. And then on the right side, I know that I'm gonna have pictures printed out that I'm actually going to tape or glue in to create that vision board. So I didn't want to do anything too crazy with the decorations around these because I knew the spreads would be pretty busy when it came to actually filling them in. And we are done with that for now, but I promise we are going to come back to finish that vision board after we get started on my content planner spreads. So I started including a content planner spread last year because my goal was to create this YouTube channel and regularly post videos. And I have found that this spread is extremely helpful for me to have. So I knew I wanted to set up another one, and this is very similar to a year at a glance, and I just use this to take record of the dates that I plan to upload videos and what videos I plan to upload on those specific days. So right now my upload schedule is Sunday and Wednesday when possible, and I may actually go to 3 days a week next year just because I am going to be setting up another personal curriculum for the spring, and I think I may want to start posting weekly update videos, taking you along with me as I follow that personal curriculum and giving you my thoughts and wins and losses throughout as I go through that experience. So I may move to a Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday upload schedule, but that really just depends. Last time when I posted my fall personal curriculum, I did get a lot of interest in seeing a weekly overview or a regular overview of how that was going. So I definitely think that's something that I want to try to tackle this year. And this content planner spread will be a huge help in keeping me on track. So at this point, my camera died, and that's okay because that means that we get to come back and actually finish my vision board before we continue with those doodles on my content planner spread. So I printed out all of the little items for my vision board that I wanted to represent the things that I'm hoping to work on in the next year and things that I'm looking forward to. And I just started by trying to lay them out in a way that was aesthetically pleasing to me. And from there, I was able to go ahead and tape them down to create my vision board collage. So after I felt satisfied with that layout, I went ahead and started using my double-sided tape to go ahead and attach everything to the page. And I did try to lay these out in a way that they were overlapping, but that you could still clearly see everything and still see the design that I had created for my little vision board spread on the page. So I will tell you a little bit about some of these. You'll see that I have a few things representing Japan, and that's because we are planning a trip to Japan next year. So I'm very excited about that, and it's something that we've been working really hard towards. I need to work a little harder on my language lessons, but that is something that I'm really, really excited about for next year. I also have some things representing some drawing tutorials, so I'm wanting to continue to improve my drawing as well as my digital art. I'm also wanting to do a better job of memory keeping, so you'll see there's a few things that are kind of indicative of that. There's a journal with some reflections in it, there's more of a memory keeping or a junk journal, and then I also just have a little picture of a camera. And then I do have some health related and mindfulness related goals for the upcoming year as well. So I do have a little yogi on there because I want to continue my daily yoga practice and really commit to that and make the most of it. And I have my little weightlifting penguin because I really want to get back into a weightlifting routine. I really feel like that is the most important form of exercise for maintaining functional fitness, especially across the lifespan. So I've been really disappointed that I haven't been able to maintain a routine that has felt good to me recently. So that is definitely something that I want to recommit to. And then the last thing that's on here is just a little money jar with savings for the future, because I feel like it is always a goal of mine to save more money and spend less. And this upcoming year, I'm really planning to commit to that by doing a no buy, and I will be revisiting The Year of Less by Kate Flanders because I previously read that and I found it very inspiring, and she gives some very helpful tips for that. And to finish my vision board, I just added in a few little doodles here and there. I did some little hearts and some little sparkles, and I don't think these are perfect, but the amount of white space in between some of the pictures was kind of killing me. So I do think it looks a little bit better than if I had just left it blank, but I'm not entirely in love with the doodles themselves. But that does mean that we can get back to working on my content planner, and we are going to pick up with finishing the little drawings that I have on the bottom of each side of the spreads. And I did try a slightly different coloring technique on these, and I think I like how these look a little bit better. I really like how my cover spread turned out overall, but I felt like for the drawings themselves, I did like this method of coloring them in better. And I was actually inspired by an artist that I saw on Rednote to try out this style of drawing instead. So I'm really enjoying it, and you'll probably see a little bit more of it pop up in my journals moving forward. And with these two doodles complete, that finishes my content planner. So we can move into my next spread, and something that I am trying to be a lot better about is actually reflecting on all of the data that I collect on a monthly basis in my journal. So if you've been watching my journaling videos, you would know that I typically have a workout tracker in each monthly spread, as well as some habit trackers. And so I thought this would be a really nice way to keep track of that across the 6 months that I will be using this journal for. So I just wanted to set up some really simple graphs so that I could fill in data for the first 6 months of the year and actually see what my trends were from month to month. And while I feel like this is one of the least glamorous spreads that I set up in my journal, I do feel like it is one of the most impactful spreads that I have in my start of journal setup. I think one of the things that is so useful about bullet journaling is that we collect lots of data about whatever we are wanting to track for ourselves. So for me, that's a lot of habits that I'm wanting to adhere to and daily activities. And if I'm collecting that data on a monthly basis, but I'm never taking an aggregate of that data and seeing what my trends are throughout the year, I can't draw too many conclusions about what is and what is not working for me. But I feel like this type of spread will be so helpful in actually taking that snapshot and seeing what my trends are for the year as it goes along. When I tell you guys, there is nothing worse than watching this back and realizing I missed putting the months in on this spread. Oh well, I will fix it later. So the next spread here is my personal curriculum spread, but I'm actually going to reserve that one to fill it in when I create my personal curriculum and film my personal curriculum video. So I'm gonna come back to that one. I just wanted to have a placeholder for it in my start of journal spreads, but because I'm undecided about everything that I'm going to need on that page, I'm gonna let that wait and we will come back to it. So if you wanna see how I set that up, definitely come back for my personal curriculum video. It will be up pretty early on in January, so you won't have to wait too long to see that. And the spread that I am currently working on goes right along with my desire to do some more memory keeping this year. So I wanted to set up a favorites page right here at the start of the journal that had a spot for me to put my favorite book, my favorite song, and my favorite show or movie that I watched in each of the first 6 months of the year. I feel like I do a pretty okay job of keeping track of my favorite books each month. I use a lot of different tracking apps for my reading, but I don't really do a great job of keeping track of anything else. So I thought it would be really cool to have this spread at the start of the journal that I could flip back to record my favorites as the first 6 months of the year go on. And this was another spread that was incredibly easy to set up, but I ultimately think it will end up being one of my favorite spreads in the journal because it's going to be something that reminds me to return to these start of journal spreads, and also will be a really perfect snapshot of the first 6 months of the year. I don't know about you all, but I did get my Spotify Wrapped. I have some feelings about Spotify right now, but I honestly felt like my Wrapped was not even accurate, so what was the point anyways? I mean, I do teach group fitness, so that does tend to warp my Wrapped a little bit, but I did feel like it was missing songs that I knew I had listened to a ton, and it had elevated some music that I really don't think I listened to that much. So I don't know. I'm gonna enjoy having this Wrapped of my own. But that actually brings us to the last of my start of journal spreads for 2026 that we're going to set up. So let's just take a quick flip through, starting with my cover page and my year at a glance, and continuing through all the spreads we set up together today. And that is going to be it for my 2026 start of journal setup and spread. So thank you so much for joining me for today's video. I hope you got some inspiration for your bullet journal. And as always, I really appreciate you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Have a great day. Bye.